Welcome to session 6, and I am as excited as you are probably to be almost there and almost finished with our special project seminar in reading interventions, word ID 638A. In this last session, we're going to talk about some of those big ideas from McCormick. He's another big guru in word ID, and his text was the original one that some other professors had used with this course, and I chose not to, not just the fact that it was an expensive text, but because it was a little outdated. So I felt that Words Their Way was a more appropriate text, and that many schools were already incorporating or beginning to think about Words Their Way. So I'm hoping that you enjoyed that text. I'll be interested to know your response on that whenever you do your survey at the end. In McCormick, what we're going to look at, I pulled some highlights from the text, is looking at some of the word consciousness is one of those terms that you may hear in this particular genre, but also looking at those 4 phases that he has of word learning for some of your older elementary and higher phases, or as Words Their Way says, the stage development of students. And then you're going to have the opportunity, and I think you've probably already read the announcement and or the email that I sent, in that you're going to choose an article or a text, and I've chosen a few of the experts in the field, and you will have an opportunity to read the text, and then your course activity will be to report on that. When we're in a class, face-to-face class as we call them, normally I have one of the classes where students choose something, or they're researching and reading, and then they're reporting out. So this is basically what you're doing. And then in conclusion, in thinking of some of those developmental stages of your own students. As we continue, you noticed, hopefully, that I like quotes. And I think quotes are a great thing to use. And with Word ID, you can have quotes of the day, incorporate, you can make your own quotes, choose a quote that goes along with something you're learning, or some idea that you want to highlight for that particular day, and practice it and read it with fluency. And students learn new words as you're sharing these quotes. So that was one of the things I did when I was in the classroom. I had different quotes of the day, reading quotes, different things like that. So if you were to think of a significant and important quote that epitomizes or even summarizes your learning about word ID, what would it be? I chose a quote by Ellen Keene, where she says, "An abundance of research suggests that if teachers focus their instruction on a few cognitive strategies over a long period of time in a variety of text genres, students will use those strategies independently and flexibly, will identify and pronounce unknown words, and comprehend deeply. In words, focusing on what matters most in authentic context is most likely to be successful." So I thought that was a really meaningful quote when we think about the whole literacy model of helping our students to develop into independent, proficient readers. Certainly we aren't going to just concentrate on word ID, but it is a component and something we need to think about. But when we're focusing on what is the important, the integral, or as Ellen Keene said, what matters most in authentic contexts, that's going to have our students to be most successful. So when we think about word identification, I know, at least you did the 1 week when you were sharing, I know that you know more about word rec, sight words, high frequency words, the Dolch list, the Fry list, all of those. If you are in Harford County, we're developing a new word wall. We developed, in fact, I worked with one other reading specialist years ago when we developed the word wall that we're using, that we have been using for years in Harford County. And we looked at Dolch, we looked at Fry, we looked at Cunningham's list. There are many lists out there. We look at Flesh Kincaid. And in looking at those lists and thinking, what are the words that are high frequency that my students need to know and be able to read fluently and quickly without having to figure them out. And so that's some of the things that we've learned in this word identification class. So I have two quotes here, and oh, I don't know why that one thing didn't show up about teaching our students, and I'm sure you've heard, there we go. Do we want to just give our students a fish, or do we want to teach them how to fish when we think about word identification? So word specific instruction is really the old fashioned, or if you want to say traditional way, where our objective was to teach students about words and to give them a deeper understanding of concepts that specific words represent. That's giving the students a fish. And you might be doing that in your social studies or your science curriculum or even your math. But in generative specific instruction, we want to teach students about words. We want to teach them that morphological processes by which meaningful word parts are combined to make new words, and that they understand the meanings of those word parts, and that we give them the keys to really completely and fully unlock the meaning code in the structure of English words, and that's teaching them how to fish. And I know if I gave you a choice, I know which one you'd choose. Hopefully. No, I know you would. So in this week, one of your activities is as I said, that course activity where you're going to do an article or a text. And so in the discussion forum, you're going to reflect on your learning in your initial response. And I'm thinking that'll be shorter than usual. Usually that's been longer, and then your response to colleagues has been shorter. But think this week about the fact that you've already done all the research. You've already done the report or essay, and everyone is able to access those. But just take a brief synopsis in your initial response about what you learned, a brief overview, or one of the big ideas. And then when you respond to your colleagues, choose two different reports, ones that you did not do, or essays. Read them, and then you respond to them. Add your ideas, or ask questions, or make a comment or reflection of your thinking. And when you respond, make sure you include the author's name, the student, and then the title, so that that will keep us on track as we're reading the discussion. And so when you open up Module 6, these are the directions, and you can see obviously it has the PowerPoint, and I'll have this video inserted in there, and then the course activity directions, and then the sign up for the reports, which is important. When you go to the sign up, there are two different, you can click right there, or there's a separate post that you can click in the module. And you'll see that I've listed each of the 6 articles and texts, and most of them I've included the author of them. We've got Tim Rosinski, Pat Cunningham, and then some other. If you haven't read about the secret stories or learned about that, I know someone already knows about that, so I'm hoping that that person, no names given, will choose something different. So I have 7. Up to 3 people. I'm hoping maybe 2 people choose each one so that we have a variety, but it's up to you. And then if there's one, I know we have some high school teachers. These obviously are geared more for elementary and middle, that if you have a great article that you found in your research and you'd like to do, just send that to me for my approval. And then when you get to the course, if you open up the course activity directions, you'll see the tab right here to sign up also. About halfway through, you'll see all the articles and text listed. And then if you look at the bottom where it says course activity 6, and I have Paula as the first one, Shanna, Marie, and so on, Maria. And so you're going to choose that page. You're going to open up that page. You're going to click edit, and then you're going to begin writing your essay or your report. Or, you know, you always have that option, do it on a Word document, and then copy and paste it into that page. So each of you will have your own page about the article. So as a teacher of reading, as we conclude today, I know that literacy encompasses more than just simply the ability to read and write words or identify words if we go with our word ID definition. I know that as a teacher that I want to release the responsibility for learning from me to my students, and that has to occur for them to develop into proficient independent readers. So think about that as you begin creating and developing your some of the ideas that you've learned in the course. If you're like me, all summer I'm thinking and reworking something. I always choose one thing each summer to work on. And maybe you've chosen your word work block or word ID, if you're an English or a high school teacher, in how you're going to incorporate some of the ideas. And think about that in releasing your students so that they are more independent. So thank you very much as you go on your learning, as you continue on your journey of learning. I'm thankful that you've taken this course. Next week, week 7, the only activity is to complete your assignment 3, which is looking at an intervention program. And then within that, one of the components you're asked to do or asked to evaluate is looking specifically at how Word ID fits into that program, or if it does not. All right, have a great week, and we'll be talking. I'm quoting that to all of you in this coming week. Thank you very much. Have a great week.